97.3 ESPN presents The Sports Bash with Mike Gill. It's time for Football at 4 with 97.3 ESPN.com's Andrew DiCecco. Powered by InsideTheBirds.com.
He's in! Touchdown!
Now, live from inside the Matt Black Kia Studios, it's Football at 4.
All right, Football at 4, powered by the Inside the Birds podcast. Andrew DiCecco from 97.3 ESPN.com is in the house today. Football at 4 is being brought to you by PlaySugarHouse.com. Sign up now. They'll match your first deposit up to $250. Go to PlaySugarHouse.com. Win real money with their sports book along with casino games and from the comfort of your home. Must be 21 or older to play. Gambling problem, 1-800-GAMBLER. A lot to dive into today. As really, the last couple of days, everybody's been wondering when the Eagles get back to practice after this report, Broads, about Jason Peters wanting more money. Where will he be lined up, and what will Doug Peterson say to address it? Well, Peterson did, in fact, address it today, and I don't know that he cleared things up. What about you?
No, I'm not buying anything he said, actually. Not buying it.
So he was asked point blank by Dave Zungaro from NBC. There are a couple reports that Jason Peters wants a pay bump to slide from right guard to left tackle. Is that true? If it gets to the point where you ask a player to change position and they refuse, does that undermine your authority? Let's bring Andrew DiCecco in, Football at 4, and get his take on that, because Andrew, Jason Peters is clearly the best option to play left tackle, is he not?
Yeah, absolutely. And I was just listening to what you guys were saying a few seconds ago, and I have to agree with you because, and especially with what Hunter was saying, that I'm not buying it. There's definitely some truth to that report. That's something like that doesn't just appear out of thin air. I definitely think that Jason Peters wants to be fairly compensated for being that left tackle position. Obviously, it's a premium position when comparing it to the guard position. When it's so simple that you have a Hall of Fame guy there that you're not moving to tackle because you don't want to disrupt the timing and the continuity that's been kind of blooming over the last couple of weeks, it still is a head scratcher because the options that are currently available at left tackle are kind of less than inspiring right now.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, don't you think Jason Peters would step up and say, if they want me to move, I will?
Yeah, that's something I was kind of anticipating coming out over the last day or so, but maybe it's something that he's kind of just keeping quiet. Maybe there's an understanding in the coming week or something. Maybe they're trying to work something out and he doesn't want to be a disruption, but it's kind of odd that nothing's kind of transpired on that fold, and they're kind of just rolling out Matt Pryor in that role when he's clearly not a left tackle. He's better at guard, but he's more suited. But if he does play tackle, he's better suited to play right tackle.
The timing is so big for me because if this was to happen, let's just throw a hypothetical out there, week 2 in the middle of the third quarter, are you going to have Jason Peters go, hold on, Dougie, I deserve more money if, say, somebody went down at left tackle. Let's just say it was Andre Dillard. It just doesn't make sense. It's almost like he's using the time of this as leverage.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I think if it was in the thick of things during a game, and they tapped him on the shoulder, said, "Hey, JP, you're going in there at left tackle." He goes out there and he plays left tackle, and even at 38 years old, he's going to play it at a high level. I think that timing is everything in this situation. I think now that he has a couple weeks to play with, it's time's dwindling down until you get to the Washington game, and Chase Young's waiting and licking his chops, I'm sure, right now. I think he has. Jeff Mosher said it best. Jason Peters has some leverage, but so does the Eagles. Who has more leverage? Well, that's up for debate. But I think right now he's playing with that time frame, and I think that's why he's taking the stance.
Well, so Peterson is asked a question. He said, first of all, I don't understand where some of these reports are coming from. Peters has done an outstanding job at right guard. So here he's trying to validate that Peters has done a good job at right guard. Well, no one's undermining that. No one's saying he's not doing a nice job at right guard. Right. So are the Eagles essentially saying they're valuing the right guard position more than the left tackle position? Because he says the fact that Jason has really embraced the new role, he's done it well. Because after that he was asked, if you asked Jason Peters to play left tackle, are you confident he would do it? And he says, to me, that would be a private conversation. one between him and Jason. This, to me, suggests the way he's answering this is that Peters doesn't want to move to left tackle. I find that hard to believe.
Yeah, the way I kind of took that, Mike, is that Doug was trying to diffuse a potentially, volatile situation where Jason Peters could come off like he's being undermined, and that can fracture a locker room, especially with so many other things piled on top of that. That's the last thing you really want to deal with when you have the regular season, 10 days away or whatever it is. And I definitely think he came off today like he was trying to diffuse it. You don't just have a Hall of Fame left tackle sitting there and not think to put him in there when you see other guys around him struggling. I think it was a power move by Peters to say, I'm not doing that without being compensated. And I think him and the Eagles are both at a little bit of a standoff here.
Real quick, he said today also, we have some options at left tackle that we're working through over there. You got one guy who's green as grass, Mailata, who's never played a game. You got a rookie who was not a left tackle in Driscoll, and Pryor's never played the position. You're working through learning how to play left tackle in the NFL on the job. That, to me, is quarterback. You can't put your quarterback out there with that situation when you have a Hall of Famer on the roster, not to mention Pryor has played right guard before. So he's talking about, it's hard to disrupt that many positions. You're not disrupting anything. You're putting guys where they actually played before.
To gamble on the left tackle position, the blindside protector of your quarterback is a recipe for disaster, and that's what the Eagles have with Chase Young and the vaunted Washington football team defensive line waiting for them. The answers today that I saw, Mike, they don't add up. They certainly don't make a lot of sense. The options that they have are the options that they have, and they're not very enticing. They have, obviously, like you said, Jack Driscoll, to me, might be the best equipped to do it. And he's not even a left tackle. He's a right tackle. Yes, he's played a little bit of left tackle when he was at UMass early.
And it looks like Andrew just vanished.
Yeah. But
he was saying that he played right tackle at UMass, and then he went to Auburn and was a right tackle out there.
Yeah, absolutely. I am so baffled by this. The way you just laid out that perfect question there and laid into it about how you're not mixing anything up. You're not mixing anything up at all. You're actually putting them into the spots that they deserve to be and that they played their whole career for the most part. That is what you're doing. So how is this happening? I don't know. It's blowing my mind.
So, Andrew, you were talking about Driscoll at UMass.
Yeah, Mike. So he played left guard and left tackle early in his career at UMass. I believe it was over 9 games or something early in his career in 2016 after redshirting in 2015. But he's equipped his size and his lack of arm length kind of limits him to being a right tackle for, long-term success. He can also play either guard spot or center. So he does have a lot of positional versatility and a strong football intellect. That's why I think, in a pinch, I think he probably offers the best skill set, the best makeup of any of the three. Although no matter who you put out there, Mike, they're going to struggle against Chase Young. I think even Jason Peters, at 38 years old, having not going through the left tackle reps this summer, I think even he would get off to a tough start against Chase Young, which makes me think that unless you go outside and make and initiate a trade for a player who might be on the cusp of making a roster, whether it be a veteran or something like that, they're going to have some problems.
I'm just trying to think of some answers here. Is it possible that Jason Peters believes that playing guard can actually make his career longer at this point?
I think so, and I think that he also realizes that left tackle is the premium position on the offensive line. You're going against the premier pass rushers in the NFL. And I think to be able to fulfill that role, I think he wants to be fairly compensated when you look and see across the NFL what left tackles are being paid. And I think he knows that the Eagles are kind of under the gun here with the season rapidly approaching. But like I wrote before, guard presents its own unique challenges. You're taking on guys who weigh 30 or 40 pounds more than some of the pass rushers you're used to going against. It's a physically tasking position on the inside there. You're pretty much playing in a phone booth. You're going against a lot of different body types. So it's not necessarily easier on someone who's in the advanced stages of his career like Jason Peters is. In fact, I would think they would wear on him more playing on the inside.
Yeah, I mean, you're up against defensive tackles who are generally, think about this, trying to block Fletcher Cox for a full game as opposed to trying to go against a smaller guy like Brandon Graham. I mean, there's 50 pounds between those guys. And Trey Thomas brought that up with us when he was on. He said, guys, moving inside is not as easy as it sounds in terms of the physicality. And one problem, Andrew, that Jason Peters has had, he's been nicked up with these little injuries. It's not like major injuries, but every game he seems to have to leave for a little bit. Now, you add 50 pounds to a guy banging on him all game long, all season long. Is he going to be as an effective player at this age? I mean, to me, if I have the chance to bring Jason Peters back and play him at right guard, that's nice. But if I have a chance to bring him back and move him back to left tackle when something like this happens, this is a perfect option. And for them to be fiddling around with these other three guys at the left tackle spot is asinine to me.
Yeah, especially, given the injury history to Carson Wentz, that's your franchise quarterback. You don't gamble with the left tackle position. It's clear as day to all of us that the three options that are there they're not acceptable options right now.
Yeah. Now, if you told me today, Andrew, that hey, you talked to somebody and they were holding out hope that when Lane Johnson came back, they would move him to left tackle and then move Pryor or Driscoll to the right side, then I can understand that being okay. Lane Johnson going to left tackle, Pryor or Driscoll, they're more comfortable on the right side. That would make more sense.
Yeah, actually, today somebody kind of proposed that to Doug, and he pretty much nixed that. He was against that. He didn't want to move Lane. They said they've had those discussions before with Lane, but they would prefer that he stays on the right side on the right side, because then his retort was, well, then who plays his position?
Right. He said, are you putting Driscoll over there? You're putting Pryor or Mailata? Yeah, the same three guys you're putting at left tackle.
Exactly. He said, well, then you're trying to figure out three different positions instead of one. That was his answer for that.
Now, of the three guys, Pryor, Mailata, Driscoll, where do you rank Pryor on that list? Because evidently Peterson has him at the top of the list.
Yeah, that's odd to me, because if anything, I would have. I mean, personally, Mike, I have Driscoll, Mailata, Pryor. Pryor's not a left tackle. Pryor's a right tackle, if anything, but he's best suited to be guard. He's limited athletically, but he can be that road grader, that mauler, that interior mauler. We've seen him find success doing that against the Seahawks in the playoff game. But I mean, Mailata is just so raw. He has immense upside, but you don't want to throw him out. You don't want to essentially throw him his first snaps to be against one of the best defensive lines in football and throw him to the wolves like that. That's counterproductive, in my opinion, to his development. I think you want to, as tough as it sounds, you want to put, you want to test your fourth round pick, Jack Driscoll, out there. Like I said, any of the options that they have, they're going to struggle mightily. I think that the only solution at this point is to find a way to, mend the fences there with Jason Peters and get him over to the left side, or, initiate a trade in the coming weeks, in the coming days, I should say.
The offensive line has obviously always been a strong part of this organization. So now you have a questionable left tackle, Isaac Seumalo, who's been pretty solid from what we're told. Kelsey, Jason Peters, and Lane Johnson. How good can this line be with that questionable left tackle? Can it be such an issue that it actually limits them to what kind of season they have?
Oh, Hunter, it's going to limit them significantly in the running game, and Carson Wentz's ability to kind of heave the ball downfield and open up the offense. I think that he's going to be. You take a left tackle out. You're missing Brandon Brooks. You don't know if Jason Peters if he's going to be reliably available week in and week out. Then all of a sudden you're looking at your reserve linemen, and out of the group that they have, only Nate Herbig has played NFL snaps, and that was just 3 snaps last season. They have some significant depth concerns on the offensive line, and even as it stands as a starting unit, it's concerning. But you take one of those guys out of the mix, and all of a sudden you're looking at Sua Opeta, and Nate Herbig and guys that just aren't ready to play significant snaps in the National Football League.
Andrew DiCecco, Football at 4, powered by the Inside the Birds podcast here on the Sports Bash. This was a line that you would think was one of the better ones in the league. Now, Dillard was a kind of a wild card, but a first-round pick, and then bringing Peters in for Brooks seemed to hold up that right side all of a sudden. And all of a sudden, do you think going outside the organization to find a left tackle is maybe the direction they need to go?
I think, in my opinion, in order for the season to get off the ground to a promising start and really find any semblance of success on the offensive side of the ball, the only option, in my opinion, is to go out and go outside the organization and acquire a tackle.
Unless Peters decides to do it.
Yeah, but even still, how reliable of an option is he going to be? What is his reaction time going to look like a year later? A year older at 38 years old. Can he stay on the field? Can you rely on him to even get you through a game? Because then you're back to square one if he can't. I do think you need to add a veteran or two to that offensive line, because the likelihood of them getting through the season with their current unit, it's just very unlikely.
Yeah, and Doug Peterson, by the way, he was asked today. He said Pryor has hardly ever played left tackle, and that's a reason why you don't move people where they haven't been before. You have a Hall of Fame left tackle that you're not moving to left tackle. What am I missing here? And Peterson said,
I like that question, by the way.
Yeah,
That's
that
a
was
great question by Jeff McClain.
Jeff McClain, right. He said the fact that we're not moving him to left tackle, nothing. You're not missing anything. The fact is that he came in here and had done a great job for us at right guard. So, again, with that question and that answer, it seems to me they're valuing right guard more than left tackle. I mean, is that how you read it?
I think that the player, Jason Peters, kind of made that decision for them. I think that obviously they prioritize the bookings, the tackle positions,
or does it suggest that the report is accurate, that we didn't move him there because he wants more money?
I think that the report, there's validity to that, because something like that doesn't just get pulled out of thin air. I think that you kind of see him do, I don't want to say cleanup or damage control, if you will, but he tried to kind of dissipate and diffuse any potential conflict that could be there.
Yeah.
I think that Jason Peters kind of made it known one way or the other to them that, hey, I'm staying here unless you compensate me for playing a more challenging and more a highly difficult position on the offensive line. Otherwise, I'm not going there.
Andrew DiCecco, Football 4. Rieger's out. Arcega-Whiteside, Hightower, Quez Watkins. Your read on the wide receivers now with Rieger out.
Yeah, so I think what's going to have to happen is John Hightower is going to play a role in week one, a lot earlier than many anticipated. The good thing about Hightower is that he can play the X position, he can play the slot position, he can also take the football out of the backfield and create plays on jet sweeps and screen passes, and he can return punts as well. There's some versatility to his game. I do think that he'll be able to at least contribute a handful of snaps. I don't anticipate him playing that often, but you're going to have to dress 5 receivers on opening day. Now, I don't know where Quez Watkins fits into this equation. There's also Deontay Burnett, who's played some NFL snaps. I think the fact that the Rager thing opens the door for a player like Deontay Burnett, who I've always, if you remember back in May, he was a player that I kind of said, don't forget about him, because he came in and he picked up the offense fairly quickly. He only had 4 practices on the practice squad, came right in, caught a 41-yard reception in the Giants game, which was the second longest reception by any Eagles receiver since week 2. So there's something to be said for his ability there. And people forget he's only 22 years old. So he's 2 years younger than John Hightower, which is kind of amazing to think that this is his 3rd training camp. So I think that he can be a factor on in week 1 as well. And it's going to be a little bit of smoke and mirrors as far as depth concerns. And then until you're just trying to get Rager back, hopefully by week 3 or 4.
Yeah, it's very unfortunate that Jalen's not going to be a part of the offense, because everything had been trending to him being a big part of the offense. You just wonder if, he seemingly is a different type of receiver than JJ and Hightower, right? I mean, they don't have similar skill sets.
No, Jalen, there's not a receiver on the roster that's in the mold of a Jalen Reagor. Jalen Reagor, his body type, he kind of reminds me, I guess, of a Steve Smith who has that physicality. He's going to go up and attack the football. His leaping ability is phenomenal. He's able to take advantage of, create plays in space and really take any reception at distance, but line up everywhere on offense. And they don't have a player in that mold currently. And I think that's what makes him such a valuable asset. And it really stinks to see that it's really too bad that this happened, because all things were pointing towards him getting off to a fast start and really adding another layer to this offense.
Real quick, Andrew DiCecco is with us, Football at 4 here at running back. It seemed today that Miles Sanders is day to day now. He should be ready to go, it sounds like, at least for the opener. But what have Doug Peterson in this offense kind of seen from the other guys? We've talked a lot about, there was some talk in the offseason about finding that veteran. Leonard Fournette had become available. There's people tweeting, hey, should they go after him? Boston Scott, Corey Clement. Is Doug Peterson happy with that group? Or and there's a couple other guys I know that you know well, Holyfield, Warren, Adrian Killins, or is Fournette an attractive possibility to you?
Well, if anyone's paid attention to Leonard Fournette's last couple of seasons, he hasn't been incredibly productive when given a lot of opportunities. He took the lion's share of the carries for the Jaguars last season, outside of the occasional 2 or 3 that Raquel Armstead, the Temple alum, of course, he only got 2 or 3 carries a game. So Fournette was averaging, I believe it was like 21 carries a game, and he didn't do a whole lot with it. As far as the other guys, he named Boston Scott, I believe Doug's words were he's been a bright spot, which is what you kind of expected him to say about a guy like Boston Scott, who really is a spark plug. He creates plays. He's not incredibly fast, obviously, but he's a pinball type of running back he's a terrific one-cut runner. But what really struck me in his comments today was that he was overly effusive in his praise for Corey Clement, which pretty much aligns with all the reports that we've heard and seen about him just rounding into form, getting that bounce back in his step, really being able to add some explosion to his game that we really haven't seen over the last couple of seasons. So that's encouraging there. They may only be able to keep 3 guys here, Mike, because of other areas of need, such as wide receiver. Alshon Jeffrey likely won't start the season on the PUP list because he could be back within the first few weeks of the season. So that complicates things. You need to carry another guy likely because of the whole Jalen Reagor thing. And they may go heavy at defensive end in other areas. So I think they may only be able to keep 3 running backs. But the thing is, the luxury, I should say, that the Eagles have is that 55-man flexibility where you can keep a guy like an Elijah Holyfield, a Mike Warren, or a Killins on the practice squad. Killins has had a great summer, but you really need to be special in order to stick as a 4th running back. You need to be more than a utility player. Should something happen to one of the guys in front of him, he's not a guy that can take the football and give you 5 or 6 productive carries. Let's not forget, he weighs about 167 pounds. So he's more of a specialty player that can kind of impact the return game and some gadget plays. But I think the fact that there has been no preseason really plays to the Eagles' hand and every NFL team's hand, because there's no film on these guys. So I feel like teams are going to be more inclined to stash the guys that they've worked with over the past month or so, rather than bring a new guy into their system and try to get them up to speed, because it really wouldn't be until halfway through the season where they'd be able to contribute for them anyway.
Eagles, Washington, coming up in 2 weeks. 97.3 ESPN will have it. Andrew DiCecco, 97.3 ESPN.com for more on the Eagles. DiCecco NFL. It's Football at 4, powered by the Inside the Birds podcast. Tomorrow, Jeff Mosher is in, Adam Capital on Thursday, and Andrew is back on Friday. Andrew, have a great rest of the week, man.
Thanks a lot, guys. You too.
And he, like all guests, appeared via the Boardwalk Honda Hotline.